Communism takes over your entire life, and it's a very slow growing malignancy. Before you know it, it's got you. So in order for communism to be successful, they have to control the education system, they have to control the health system, and they have to control the banking system. And so many years ago, when President Obama decided to do Obamacare, I became alarmed. Initially, it sounded too good to be true, and that's when I became an activist, because a lot of my patients stopped coming into the office. They were waiting for medicine to be free. They wanted me to tell them, how wonderful it was going to be. And I told them, I just think that's impossible to have free medicine. This system doesn't work in Cuba. And I tried to explain to them, in Cuba, medicine is free. And so there are many, many doctors, but there's no medicine to give the patient when they have diabetes or when they have hypertension, or there are no injectables. You don't get to do blood tests. You don't have MRIs and CT scans. You can't do x-rays. And so I told him, be careful what you wish for, because you may get it.
I said I was going to have a private moment, and I spoke to my next guest, and I've told you guys, as we've covered her story over the past couple of weeks now, I actually think I was one of the first ones. I'll never forget seeing that video. Someone had sent it to me, and it was just on some obscure YouTube channel, and I listened to her words. I could not turn away from it. I said, this woman is an American patriot. It was just jaw-dropping to me. And she's a medical professional at a time during this quote-unquote crisis where we need somebody to make sense of the world that we're living in. Everyone has been living in fear, of course, and she was able to relieve a lot of that fear as a medical professional. And I loved what she said. And I just thanked her privately for her service to our country at a time when we need her most. Dr. Yvette Lozano, in that viral video, which you can find on social media, we'll provide a link to it. But she identifies herself as an activist. And seconds into that video, she precisely lays out her struggle as a doctor treating COVID patients with hydroxychloroquine in Dallas, Texas. Dr. Lozano was born in Havana, Cuba. And as a political refugee, she immigrated as a child with her family to the United States. I have an affinity for people that are immigrants because I come from a family of immigrants. I was the first grandchild from a family of Italian immigrants that fled fascism in Italy. I'm the first one born here in the United States, and I'm going to speak to her about what that means to her and what she recognizes as to what she may have left and her family has left seeking freedom here in the United States of America. But recently, this patriotic good doctor has been under fire by various institutions and medical boards in Texas for refusing to give them patient information after prescribing a drug President Donald J. Trump suggested was showing great promise when treating patients with COVID-19. And we've recently discovered that not only was he suggesting something, he practices what he's advocating for, because he just admitted that he actually takes hydroxychloroquine as a prophylaxis, if that's pronounced correctly. We'll certainly defer to her. Now, before I bring her on, I want to show you something. This should outrage every single one of you right now. This is the core, and then we're gonna backtrack a little bit. Here's a message that was sent out by a doctor, a medical professional, Dr. Yvette Lozano. Walgreens number 06759. The pharmacist's name is Nicole Railing at 4001 FM 2181. Corinth, Texas, 76210. Refused to fill a prescription for a patient today. The prescription was accompanied by a diagnosis code appropriate for the medication dispensed. The pharmacist claimed Dr. Lozano was not a legit physician. She expressed to the patient that the medication prescribed was dangerous to her health, stated that she would dispense medication only if I changed the diagnosis to COVID-19. When do pharmacists decide what the diagnosis should be? When did they begin to fill prescriptions? Only when the doctor gives them the diagnosis they desire. Dr. Yvette Lozano, I welcome you for the first time to the Pete Santilli Show. And I thank you. Maybe you can further just emphasize that point, that question, Since when do pharmacists
So
do this?
thank you very much for having me. I'm so glad that we started with this. I have not, up until this point, called out anybody by name, but I felt that what had happened to this patient was so horrific that I absolutely had to do something about it. So I actually posted that. And I'm not a big Facebook person. I'm kind of a card catalog baby. I've been around for a while. And so social media is not a big medium for me. But I had a young lady that gave me permission to share her information. I won't share her name, but she is in her 30s and was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, very young. She has visible changes in her fingers and came to the office. We needed a prescription. She does not live here. And she, I guess, saw the video, wanted to change doctors. You know, thank God that she comes to see me. I don't think that's a problem. And she drives to Corinth to pick up her medication. And we have got this pharmacist that is completely out of control. Just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And so I'm very happy to talk about this particular situation because it happened last night. So the patient arrives and the pharmacist tells her that she's not going to fill this prescription because I'm not real. She doesn't believe it's a real doctor. And so we give the pharmacist the medical license, the DEA number, the NPI number. I mean, I've got a bunch of numbers that go with me. We give her a link to the website so she can see my particular location where I am. But in the computer, all that information is available in the computers where we use electronic prescriptions. And I actually called the physician. I became very irate with her. I am getting really good at having scuffles with these pharmacists. But I wasn't expecting a scuffle with this one because this particular pharmacist had a prescription and it had a diagnosis that was appropriate for the prescription. And so she told me that she wasn't going to fill it, just wasn't going to fill it. And that she had the right not to fill it, that it was the new law. And that I told her, I said, look, I've given you a diagnosis. I'm following the law. I don't have to give you a diagnosis, but I'm actually giving you one. I didn't want to have any trouble with this particular prescription. The lady was obviously very uncomfortable. She needed her medication. And she just absolutely flat out said she wouldn't get to do it. And I told her, I've given you the prescription. She goes, well, that's not the amount of pills that you're supposed to give for this. So I questioned her. I said, what medical school did you go to? I can give as many pills as I want. I mean, I don't know, they're telling us to be careful with these drugs. Now I've got the pharmacist telling me how many pills I can give. Well, I couldn't convince her. And so I asked to speak with her supervisor. Of course, she's not going to let me speak to her supervisor. She's going to turn me into the medical board. And I said, listen, I'm turning you into the Texas Pharmacological Board right now. So please do. Let me spell my name for you. And we spoke and went back and forth, and there was just absolutely nothing. She wouldn't budge. So she goes out to the patient and she actually tells the patient that this drug is so dangerous that if she takes it, she could have a cardiac event. Something could happen to her. Now, can you imagine? This is a new patient. I've prescribed a medication and she's telling my patient, not me, but my patient, that she could die from taking this drug, which is outrageous. Completely. I mean, talking about not professional courtesy at all. If you're concerned about a drug harming a patient, obviously you call the doctor first. You discuss the potential, dangers of the drug. Very safe drug. You guys all know the drug that I'm talking about. And she had a diagnosis. So we're not even talking that there was no diagnosis. She didn't like the number of pills. And so I told her, I said, this is what I want to give her this supply. I don't want to give her more than this. I want to see if it works. And she tells me that she's not stupid and that she knows what I'm doing. And that if I want her to dispense this drug, I need to write COVID on this prescription. And I told her, I said, patient doesn't have COVID.
Wow.
Patient doesn't have test for COVID.
Wow.
Why would I want to do that if the patient doesn't have this? And could not convince this woman. Again, asked to speak to the supervisor. And then I told the lady, I said, call the supervisor of the pharmacy. And the manager came in. And the patient told me, I felt really uncomfortable, Dr. Lozano. This pharmacist, and I've named her. I don't recall her name, but I've named her intentionally. There's a picture of her on my Facebook page. I want the pharmacy board to sanction her because she actually spoke to the manager of the store and gave vital, critical, private information about this patient, which she should not have given because we have privacy laws in this country. Your pharmacist is not at free to discuss your medical conditions with anybody. The reason we asked for the manager was because we wanted to talk to her supervisor. And because she wouldn't call the supervisor, we thought the manager could help us. And he spent a good, I'm going to say 20 to 30 minutes trying to convince this pharmacist to fill this prescription. And she would not, absolutely not. Then she did something that was even more outrageous. She actually transferred the prescription without the consent of the patient to another pharmacy. Can you imagine? Without the consent of the patient, she transferred the prescription. She said, go fill it at another pharmacy. Transferred it, I believe, to Albertsons. And the patient said, but I didn't give you permission to do that. Why would you transfer my prescription to another without my permission?
Wow.
You're sending another pharmacy information about my medical condition? And she said, I'm not going to fill it, but you can go get it filled over there. Well, long story short, the patient was there until the particular pharmacy closed. And now it's 9 o'clock and she's in close to 9 o'clock. She's in trouble. And so I start looking for another pharmacy. I find a pharmacy. And when I called the pharmacy, the pharmacist said, I've already got the prescription. It's ready to go. Didn't give me any hassles, dispensed it without any problems. These pharmacists have gone rogue. And they need to be stopped. We have rights as doctors and rights as patients. And these pharmacists they are not allowed to do what this pharmacist did. And so I believe she needs to be looked at and deeply investigated by the Texas Board of Pharmacy. And I've contacted a lot of people in regards to this particular case, and I put her out there so they know who she is. I hope that the public calls and complains about what happened to this poor patient.
Yeah, and in fact, let me go back to that since you mentioned that. Again, I'll put it up on the screen as a matter of bringing public awareness. This is actually a licensed professional
Yes.
that is held to account. There's certain there's legal, professional standards, ethical standards. Nicole Railing at Walgreens number 06759 in Corinth, Texas, is the location. And this is a professional person that's in the public serving the public. It's not like we're giving away private information. This is a Walgreens corporation. Right.
Yeah.
Now, Dr. Lozano, and you're going to have to pardon me, I'm not of the medical profession. So if my terminology is wrong, I want to ask you something. You could probably speak to the procedures that they have to follow. You're a doctor. You can write the prescription. Then it goes to the pharmacist. If there's legal requirements as to advising, pharmacists will typically say, make sure you take this with plenty of water, and there's potential side effects. There's a disclaimer that goes with that the pharmacist has to pursue. But I see this as like a political intervention at this point. Let's set aside the violations of ethical standards and procedures. This is a political intervention, is it not? How's this pharmacist on the alert about hydroxychloroquine?
Well, we didn't speak about politics. There is no politics involved in medicine. If you're sick, you need medication, right, regardless of what side of which way you swing.
The doctor, right? The doctor prescribes it. The pharmacist fills it. They
but
wanted
we're on
to
the same team. We're on the same team, Pete. So here's what happens, okay? And I've been practicing for 30 plus years. If I send a prescription to the pharmacy, sometimes I'm not going to tell you that I'm perfect. I may make a mistake. Maybe the patient has an allergy, or maybe there's a medication that's been prescribed by another physician that may cause an interaction. And so pharmacists and doctors work together. It's a good team when it works. And so this particular, lady comes in and she calls me, doesn't call me, she tells my patient she's not going to fill it. Tells the patient that the prescription doesn't have a diagnosis. Well, I had sent a diagnosis on this one because it was so far away and this woman was so sick. And so when she got there, I called the pharmacist and said, please look at the prescription. It does have a diagnosis. So that was not the question that she was concerned about. There was no other medication that she was going to have a contradiction with. The only thing that she was concerned about was that she thought I was fake and phony. Now, I don't know why she thought I was fake and phony, why she said I wasn't a legitimate doctor. I don't know where she got that. And I'm not sure if that's political. But I told her, I'm real. Let me give you all my numbers and feel free to call me, look at the, website. But then she went into a rant about how I'm not going to fill it because, the Texas Pharmacy Board says that you need a prescription, a diagnosis. Well, I read her the Texas Pharmacy Board mandate. And I read it to her on the phone and I told her, I said, look, I am not legally bound to give you a diagnosis, but I have given you a diagnosis. Why are you not filling this? This doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Towards the end of the conversation, she told me, this is a fraud, and the only way I'll fill this if you change the diagnosis. Well, why in the world would I write a diagnosis that is not the diagnosis that I had in the office to get this pharmacist to fill this medication?
Yeah.
That's ludicrous.
Right. That is just outrageous. Now, I use the term a political intervention because obviously for them to stop it, and they hear hydroxychloroquine, they get triggered. They've been watching the news. They get their mandates. There's a lot of political pressure to stop the distribution of hydroxychloroquine because it doesn't fit in with the narrative of let's pump this all through big pharma, of course, because there's trillions of dollars at stake. We can't
I didn't have any problems at Albertson. The patient went to Albertson. She was not asked anything, and the medicine was dispensed immediately.
Okay.
That to me.
Okay, so this is still happening though, and we have a huge concern about that. Now, if you don't mind, I brought this up about Walgreens. We've identified them. They're triggered somehow, some way that caused the interaction here. Now, let me ask you, talk about the procedure. As a doctor, you prescribe. You don't have to give the diagnosis. At what point does a pharmacist intervene with that doctor-patient relationship in getting a prescription? At what point can they intervene?
So, if a pharmacist feels that the medication is dangerous, and they have discussed this with the doctor, and the doctor is insistent that the medication be given, then the pharmacist, in a very polite and professional way, will caution the patient and advert the patient to the potential side effects. And then they'll mention to the patient that they've spoken to me and that I'm aware of the side effects, but that I have made this medical decision that the medicine is appropriate, and they bring it to the attention of the patient. But I've never had a pharmacist tell a patient that I'm writing a prescription that's harmful. Can you imagine? I could lose the patient. That patient, I mean, if I went to a pharmacist and they told me that the medicine my doctor gave me was going to kill me or give me a heart attack, I wouldn't go back to the doctor. Well, that affects my livelihood.
Yes.
And that is not professional courtesy, and we're not working as a team. When the patient asked this particular pharmacist to explain it to her or to show her the law why she couldn't give this, there was nothing shown. She didn't have anything to back up her claims that this was dangerous or going to kill her, or that I legally couldn't prescribe it.
You know, the disparaging you by saying that you're not talk about your credentials, because you're being attacked right now. I understand that. I mean, if for a pharmacist to say it's defamation. Yes.
Absolutely.
Talk about your credentials, because let's set the record straight right now. Not that we have to counter it, but just tell everybody, for a pharmacist to say what they said was inappropriate. You've been a doctor for how long?
So I think I received my MD degree, I believe, in 1994. I'm a little tired. I've been
that's okay.
a couple of weeks, so I apologize. So I've been practicing medicine for over 30 years. I've been in my current place of location. I own my practice. It's Lozano Medical Clinic in Dallas, Texas, and I just celebrated 20 years of being here. And so I'm very legit. I have about 18,000 patients,
Wow.
and they're all very happy. I've never had a problem with the medical board, never been sanctioned. My training is actually in general surgery. I did emergency room medicine when I got out of my residency program.
Wow.
Because I had lots of loans, $250,000 worth of school loans. And I went to work for myself. I didn't enjoy working for the hospital setting, didn't like the bureaucracy, didn't like having people come and tell me that I shouldn't have ordered an x-ray on this patient, or I should have ordered more blood work on the other one. In the emergency room physicians make a lot of money, and they get a percentage of everything that's billed. And on certain occasions, I felt like that was unethical. And so I walked away from a job in 1997 where I was making $55,000 a year to open up my own shingle. And so obviously I've never made that kind of money again, but I've been very happy. I love what I do. It's given me an opportunity to be a mom. I have a 22-year-old that just graduated from college. And
congratulations.
Thank you.
That's great.
I've been able to go to soccer games. I've been able to participate in Girl Scouts. And so this has given me the freedom of, not having that 12-hour shift in the emergency room or the grueling job of, surgery.
Dr. Lozano, it's very clear, very well established. Nobody should question your credentials. And you just said you've had no record of any discipline or malpractice or anything like that. There's nothing that would justify a pharmacist saying that to your patient. Period.
No.
Yes.
Not at all.
Now, let's talk about, if you could, let's talk about, and I say that political intervention, this pressure that's upon you, that's being pushed back on you. There's something political that's going on, left versus right, but let's go even deeper. You, as a young child, immigrated to the United States of America from Havana, Cuba. I want you to speak to what you're recognizing. I think you spoke very eloquently in that video that went viral. You know what this is. You know what this battle is. These Marxists that through their mechanism creating these crises that they exploit in order to set up their control mechanism. You understand and recognize what it is because you're almost genetically predisposed to recognize what it is, correct?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
So I was very small when we left Cuba, but my parents very quickly knew that they didn't want to raise a child in a communist country. And so communism takes over your entire life, and it's a very slow growing malignancy. Before you know it, it's got you. And so the things that they have to control with communism, and I like to call it what it is. I don't tinker-tot around it calling it socialism. I call it full-blown communism. So in order for communism to be successful, they have to control the education system. They have to control the health system, and they have to control the banking system. And so many years ago, when President Obama decided to do Obamacare, I became alarmed. Initially, it sounded too good to be true, and that's when I became an activist. Because a lot of my patients stopped coming into the office. They were waiting for medicine to be free. They wanted me to tell them, how wonderful it was going to be. And I told them, I just think that's impossible to have free medicine. We can't do that. We couldn't possibly afford that. The way the system works, this system doesn't work in Cuba. And I tried to explain to them, in Cuba, medicine is free. And so there are many, many doctors, but there's no medicine to give the patient when they have diabetes or when they have hypertension, or there are no injectables. You don't get to do blood tests. You don't have MRIs and CT scans. You can't do x-rays. And it's kind of a system a little bit like maybe Canada. And so I told them, be careful what you wish for because you may get it. And I said, the reason that you guys come here to see me is, and I'm very different from the county hospital because I'm a private clinic. So the patients that come here, are private patients. They're not in a government program. And I said, you can't just come in and see me. You'll have to wait 3 months to get an appointment. And you'll have to wait hours before you come in to see me. And I won't be able to give you the medicine that I want to give you. I'll only be able to give you the medicine that the government allows. And so I was very alarmed with Obamacare, and I started becoming politically active and looked for candidates that were anti-Obamacare. And was horrified when they actually implemented the entire Obamacare in 2013. And it almost devastated my practice because patients would come in and they would have insurance and they were so happy, right? And then they would have $6,000 to $9,000 deductibles. And they were paying $300 to $400 a month for their insurance. And yet they had to pay for the full office visit because the insurance didn't cover the office visit because they had such a large deductible. And so I told them, this is what you wanted. You wanted everybody to have insurance. Well, this is how it works. Yeah. And they were very unhappy, and it was very difficult. A lot of patients didn't come to get care. They didn't get their annuals. They didn't get their pap smears. They didn't come to the doctor when they were healthy, and so they came when they were sick. And when they were sick, they were really, really sick because they'd waited so long that it actually would cost more to take care of them because I had to do more interventional stuff. So in a way, for me, it was interesting because I didn't have the volume that I had before. I could spend more time with each patient, and that was nice, but they were so sick that, that was not a good thing.
Isn't it, and if you don't mind me saying so, and you can keep arm's length from my conspiracy theorizing, because I'm an outsider to your profession, but I have to recognize that there's some driving force here through Obamacare. I'm an activist as well, and I dug into it, and I said, there's 76,000 pages that were not written by the legislators that voted for this thing. As Nancy Pelosi famously said, you need to vote for it to find out what's in it. Who wrote this thing? We find out that the insurance companies had an interest in Obamacare, that they were to benefit at the expense of all others. And I'm a big advocate for affordable health care, too. As a lifelong conservative, I believe, especially later in life, that you're going to need adequate health care and affordable health care. I believe that that's important. So I'm a big proponent of affordable health care. And I said, this thing is going to be out of control, and I knew it early on. The same forces are driving what I'm now calling an epidemiocracy, that big pharma has an interest, a multi-trillion-dollar industry in the vaccines and what big pharma is putting out there. When we hear about hydroxychloroquine, that's a very affordable product that's been around for a long time, a great way to test the efficacy of a product like that, and it's affordable to people. They can't have that, can they? Isn't that what's driving this whole dispute with hydroxychloroquine, in your opinion, professional opinion?
So I don't know that you have enough hours on the radio to get me going on Obamacare. But let me tell you just a few things, and then let me touch base on this hydroxychloroquine.
I'll take that as a compliment. That was a good question, by the way. All right. Good.
When Obamacare kicked in, a lot of my patients started getting sick. My older patients, my Medicare patients, they started having problems with their kidneys and with their liver. And this had never been seen before. Now, obviously, patients get older and you have diseases, but it was across the board. Everybody was having problems. And so I started calling the local pharmacist. And what I found out was alarming, just really alarming. And the pharmacist started telling me how dangerous these generic drugs were. And I told them, I said, they've always worked before. And they said, well, the reason that the generics worked before is because they were American-made generics, made in this country, in our pharmacies, our factories. I'm sorry. He said, but these things are coming from overseas, and they're coming from other countries, and they're not the same quality. And then they told me, which was really alarming, was that if you were a Medicare patient, the pharmacist could only dispense a drug according to an NDC number. I didn't know exactly what an NDC number was at that time. And so he explained to me that every month they get a list of what all these drugs cost and from what particular country it's being imported, and it has a price. And if you're a Medicare patient, according to Obamacare, you are not allowed to have a brand name drug if a generic exists. So a brand name drug made in America with, in our factories with our ingredients and our chemicals versus a generic drug that comes from another country where, although the FDA is going to check on this manufacturing plant, they may not go as often, right? And if they arrive there, well, they know that the plane just got there, they could clean everything up. And so I started looking for this, and I realized that there were certain drugs that I couldn't get anymore. I couldn't find them. I'll give you an example, Bactroban cream. I can find Mupirocin cream, but even if I paid $300 for a tiny tube of antibiotic cream, it does not exist anymore because it's no longer made in America. Because when you have a $5 drug coming into the market and you have a $30 drug, nobody's going to buy the $30 drug because they want the $5 cheap one. And so the culture in America changed, and we went from quality to inexpensive, cheap. We wanted it for free. Obamacare brought us thinking that we wanted it for free. And the problem was that these older patients now that were taking these generic drugs made of suboptimal ingredients, but they fell into that range of being generic, right? Started having problems with their liver and with their kidneys. And I was experiencing that. So it was very alarming. Now, going to hydroxychloroquine, I really do believe that this has some kind of a political tint to it, because hydroxychloroquine has been in the market for years. And when you have an older drug, you actually know what the side effects are because it's been around so long that you have an opportunity to know what to expect, right? And it just didn't have any side effects. And I had used it occasionally, but not on a mass amount. And I was skeptical initially of how this was going to work. And like I've mentioned before, the American Medical Association didn't guide me into how to treat people with COVID. They guided me in testing people. And the laboratories, they wouldn't even come pick up COVID tests from my office unless I was able to guarantee them that I was going to do 30 to 50 COVID tests a day. I mean, that's crazy. If I have a specimen and I want to send a COVID test, and I've only got 3, the laboratory should come to my office and pick up my specimen. But I was using Quest Diagnostics. And they told me, we're not even going to pick up from your office, Dr. Lozano, unless you have 50 specimens. And so I thought, wow. So I quickly called CPL and I said, if I have 3 or 5 or 10, will you pick up? And they said, we'll pick up for 1. And I was like, thank you. And so obviously I'm not using Quest very often. I'm now using CPL. And so hydroxychloroquine is a $13 prescription, between $10 to $15, depending on where you go, if the pharmacy will dispense it, right? But it's very inexpensive. And the first patient that I gave this to, I will tell you, I was cautious. I was worried. The patient had positive COVID test. He had all the symptoms. I had heard the president of the United States tell us that this medicine worked, that he had read something from a doctor in France. I looked the doctor up. I read the study. The study was remarkable. 29 patients had been cured. And I thought, well, pretty much symptom-free. Why not use it? And when that patient called me the next morning and told me that he was completely normal, I didn't believe it. I said, come back into the office. I want to see you. And it was incredible. There was no fever. There were no chills. He was breathing so much better. I mean, it was absolutely unbelievable. And I had him come back the next day, 2 days in a row. I just wanted to make sure that there weren't any, long-term effects, maybe show up a little slower. And he came back the next day. He was so compliant. I'm so appreciative. And again, just did wonderful. And so now I'm probably at 80 patients treated with fabulous results. They start within three to 4 hours. They're better. Resolution of symptoms within 1 to 2 days. I mean, I told Dr. Fauci, come to my office and look at my results here if you don't think hydroxychloroquine works. I've got testimonials of these patients. My problem is not treating them. I know how to treat them. My problem is getting their doctors to open their doors and start treating their own patients, because I can't treat everybody else's patients. I had somebody come here today from, we had Houston, we had San Antonio, we had Arizona. I'm in Texas. I had somebody that drove all the way from Arizona, Mississippi. This is ridiculous. There are doctors in all of these states, but they're afraid to use this because the hospitals have forbidden them. And these are doctors that work for a hospital or for big groups. They're afraid of the legal aspects because this is not FDA approved. If they use it and there's a bad problem, they could get sued. You know what? I'm not worried about getting sued. I'm worried about saving lives. Okay.
That's right.
I've never been sued. When a doctor does something in good earnest and communicates with the patient what they're doing, and the doctor makes a mistake, and let me tell you, I've made mistakes. I'm not perfect, but I'm the first one to call the patient and say, hey, this happened. This is how we're going to fix it. I'm very sorry, and move forward. But to not be able to treat people because you're afraid that you're going to get sued because the medicine's not FDA approved, let me tell you, if they've approved Remdesivir, which is highly toxic. I almost stopped the study because it was so toxic. And they've approved that $900 a vial drug. We definitely need FDA approval for hydroxychloroquine, who's been on the market for 65 years.
That's right. That's right. Now, can you stay with me over the break? We're going to take a short break if you need to step away for a little bit. And I want to come back. I want to talk about a couple of things.
No, you got me going.
What's that?
I said, you got me going now.
We're going to go. Wait till you hear what I'm going to ask you on the other side. Actually, no, President Trump, I'm going to have commentary on the other side. We're going to talk about President Trump. And what I loved about our ability to get information from him, and he just goes right around the mainstream media and Silicon Valley. That's what he does. It's not like he's unqualified to say, I have a bunch of advisors. A bunch said that Big Pharma is the solution. And these other people said, wow, this might work, and it doesn't require a vaccine, hydroxychloroquine. That landed in your lap, and you took that information. And I also want to talk about the Hippocratic Oath and how it relates to your ethics in dealing with this. And a lot of people don't fully know, but the Hippocratic Oath, as you described, do I proceed taking care of my patients, worrying about whether or not I'm going to be sued? Or, what is your obligation? You took an oath. It's a serious one, and I think you're upholding that oath along with our President of the United States as well to do the right thing. We'll be back right after this short message with Dr. Lozano. You guys don't go away, all right? I told you guys this was going to be an important interview. It certainly is. We have a great American patriot, great doctor, and she's serving people all over the country. Stay right there. We'll be back with Dr. Lozano right after this.
To combat censorship, political bias, and inform Americans about news that matters, President Trump has directed us to go around the mainstream media and Silicon Valley. We've set up a free, fail-safe system that allows you to be in direct contact with our team. Get notified when news breaks or when your favorite platform tries to disconnect you from us. Text RANGE to 50597 or visit PeteLive.tv/text. We'll send you an alert. It's your lifeline to vital information when you need it most. Text RANGE to 50597. The secret is out. In 2019, we saw a damaging trade war with China, an impeachment that has little to no teeth, and record stock market highs. Yet gold gained nearly 20%. Rich Dad Poor Dad author Robert Kiyosaki said, "In the next 10 years, 2 billion old guys like me will retire. 2 billion all over the world. This is a global crisis. I'm buying gold and silver. I love silver because it's cheap and could double when the market's correct." Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, and Citigroup are forecasting $2,000 per ounce for gold. Orion Metal Exchange is a Consumer Affairs top-rated gold IRA dealer. At Orion, you get more precious metals for your money. Call today or request a free investment kit below. If you're over 40, mention Pete Santilli and get a free 1-ounce silver coin for qualified retirement account owners. Call 1-866-915-5053 and get your free investment guide today. That's 866-915-5053. Tell them Pete Santilli sent you.
Collagen, the most abundant protein in your body, essentially the glue that holds you together, but it declines by more than 12% every decade after your 20s. Low collagen levels can contribute to joint pain, sagging skin, and other conditions. Poor diet, smoking, and pollution accelerate the loss of collagen. But now there's ageless multi-collagen from BioTrust. Go to healthwithpete.com and discover this all-natural product today. Use ageless multi-collagen and you'll notice healthier skin, hair, nails, and joints in no time. Become ageless. Go to healthwithpete.com to order your ageless multi-collagen from BioTrust today. That's healthwithpete.com.
I'm hungry. What's to eat?
Beans again.
Did somebody say hungry? Pistol Pete's Jerky at pistolpetesjerky.com. A herd of delicious flavors. Break Bronco busting hunger. Lasso up your order at pistolpetesjerky.com.
Thanks, Pistol Pete.
I made it myself. pistolpetesjerky.com. Tell them Pete sent you.
Howdy, gunslingers. Pistol Pete's Jerky is the official beef jerky of the Pete Santilli Show. Go to pistolpetesjerky.com or click any of the links down below and order your delicious American beef jerky made right here in the United States of America. It's tough right now to get your hands on gold. Dealers just can't get enough. But we know it's time to protect your wealth. It's time to protect your family. Did you know that you can buy, sell, save, and spend physical gold with Swipe with Gold? It's super easy with our mobile app to buy real gold for better financial security. You just visit www.swipewithgold.com and download the app, register, and your prepaid MasterCard will be delivered by mail in just a few days for free. When you get your card, you just load on your cash, then you're ready to buy, save, and spend in real gold. It's that simple. You can withdraw your money anytime at any ATM that accepts MasterCard. So visit swipewithgold.com. That's www.swipewithgold.com and download the app right now to get your free card and start using real gold as money. During a worldwide pandemic, it's a good idea to stock your house up with essential supplies. If the lights go out, it's really important to have contingency plans in place. A good start would be a flashlight, and not just any flashlight. The Fighter Flare flashlight. The 6-in-1 Fighter Flare flashlight comes with a 3,000 milliamp hour solar-powered recharging battery, an 800 lumen LED, a high-low beam light, emergency strobe light, a compass, a wire and rope cutter, an emergency glass breaker hammer, and a high-powered military-grade magnet. The Fighter Flare flashlight is the perfect addition to your household and can be very reliable in times of need. Limited supplies last, and this is the very last chance to get 20% off the new 2020 model before they sell out. Take advantage now and give you and your family the gift of night protection. Please visit www.fighterflare.com. Enter promo code PETE to get 20% off. That's www.fighterflare.com.
To combat censorship, political bias.
And I'm sorry I missed a portion of what you said. Are you okay with time, or do you need to depart?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good.
You are.
I wanted to clear that up.
Okay, and I missed a portion of what you said because it was just a little bit too loud.
The patient just called me on pharmacist Nicole Railing, and the patient just called me to tell me that the pharmacist told her I have seen this doctor on Facebook. I'm not filling that prescription. So it was political.
Wow.
I didn't know that. The patient just sent me a sticky.
Wow. You were just, yep, see?
So I didn't know that.
And you just confirmed that. That is interesting indeed, and certainly newsworthy. And, we're going to prepare this segment as we send it out on the Range Broadcasting Network, wherever you get it, whether it be YouTube, Facebook, however you receive it. If you're tuned in right now on the live broadcast on Amazon or Apple or whatever, I need you to go to our website, get all of the appropriate links, contact information, and let's put some, because we the people actually want these elected officials and professionals that regulate what pharmacists do to be held accountable to their ethical standards, and we need to put and let them know that we the people exist. But Dr. Lozano, thank you for staying with me over the break. So I want you to explain, especially as you navigate through this quote unquote crisis, this opportunity for the left to maintain a control grid over us, but you still have an obligation to your patients. So, does that obligation to do no harm with the Hippocratic Oath, does it also further extend to, okay, I'm going to prescribe something here, this particular medication, as far as, how about the financial harm that it may cause by going with a big pharma option versus a less expensive option that you could experiment with? Is that also taken into consideration with the Hippocratic Oath? Can you explain that to us?
So I think the Hippocratic Oath doesn't really have anything to do with the financial aspect of medicine. In fact, you don't want to consider the financial aspect of medicine, because you want to treat people the same and not treat people that have money or don't have money differently. Mm-hmm. So I don't think so. I think what the Hippocratic Oath does is say, know your limitations. If you know it, do it. But if you're not sure, be cautious. And so I'm very conservative in medicine. I actually don't like medications. And most of the patients that have come in, the first thing I've done is take them off half of all the crap that they're on. And it's because doctors, instead of being doctors, start sending people to different specialists, and they don't know what the other guy's doing. And before you know it, the patient's got 20 drugs and he doesn't feel better. Well, he doesn't feel better because he's got 20 drugs. So it's made my job difficult these last 3 or 4 weeks, because the people that are coming in are not my regular patients, and it takes a lot of time to get to know them. And I've got 3 or 4 hour waits here in the office, and that makes me very uncomfortable, very nervous. But I'm afraid that if I don't get a good, thorough history, I may hurt someone. And so the Hippocratic Oath is do no harm. Mm-hmm. When this all started, Pete, I was really concerned as to whether I should only treat my patients and not treat other doctors' patients. And then it became very clear that my patients weren't sick. And the reason they weren't sick is because I got them ready. I mean, we're ready for a pandemic. We're ready before we even know that a pandemic is coming. Wow. Because in my clinic, what I do is I make them healthy. And if they're healthy, they don't get sick. So my patients didn't get sick. And when the other guys would trickle in, I was like, well, I'm not busy, so I might as well treat them. And this is what happened, is that then the word got around. And I started seeing patients from other doctors. And people would come in and say, well, where's your regular doctor? Well, he's not open. Or, he sent me to go get a test. Or, I don't have a regular doctor. And then I thought, okay, when I knew there was a rally, I wanted doctors to feel comfortable about opening their doors. Mm-hmm. The American Medical Association was trying to tell me how easy it was to do telemedicine. But I'm thinking, okay, I'm a surgeon, right? So how do you touch somebody's belly through a computer screen? How do you know if they've got appendicitis through a computer screen? I mean, you can't see them, right? And so I knew that wasn't the right answer, and I didn't want to do telemedicine. I was coming to the office every day. My staff needed a job. I wasn't going to send them home so they didn't have any pay. And the patients started coming in. And so I thought, okay, I need to embolden these other doctors. So the rally opportunity showed up, and I thought, okay, let me just do a little spill. I actually had a speech written. And then two speakers before me kind of read it from a piece of paper, and it was so boring. And these people had come to the rally, and it was hot. And I thought, I'm not reading this off my phone. I'm just going to talk to them. Let me just tell them the truth about this. There shouldn't be a scare, and it's easy to treat, and they get better, and it's cheap, and nobody's talking about this except for the president. And then all of a sudden, the media silenced President Trump. Mm-hmm. And I became concerned. I thought, wow, the president's now nervous. I need to get a hold of him. Well, how am I going to get a hold of the president of the United States? So let me tell you something interesting. President Trump legitimized me. When he came out and he said, I'm on this prophylactically, he legitimized me as a physician that, yes, this medicine works. I mean, he's the most powerful man in this country. He's running the country and he's on this drug prophylactically. Now, let me explain the difficulty that I have with HIPAA in my office. Okay, so do no harm, right? So I have a lot of couples that are coming in, and the husband may be infected, but not the wife, or the wife and maybe not the husband. And so the number one question is, are you going to write me a prescription too? And the answer is no, I'm not going to, because you don't have symptoms. And I'm not going to waste this drug on you who are healthy and show no symptoms when I can use it on the next person that comes. Because, you know, the first time that I started doing this, I wrote 5 prescriptions to the CVS on Garland Road, Garland and Peavy here in Dallas. And the pharmacist called me up and she said, I'm not filling another prescription for you. And I wish I had her name. I'll find it and I'll give it to you. And I said, what do you mean you're not going to write another prescription? Because you sent me 5 prescriptions and I've got 100 pills left and I'm not going to give you another one. And I don't have to fill any prescription for you. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Why don't you order some? And she said, no, that it was on back order. And so that made me concerned that if I use this inappropriately, that, you know, we wouldn't be able to have this for people that really needed it. So today I had a 99-year-old woman in my office. She came from San Antonio. I examined her and I feel that she does not have this disease. Now you can imagine the family is very distraught because they drove all the way from San Antonio. That's what they want. And I said, no, I don't think so. And I tried to reassure them, look, if she needs it, I'll be the first person to give it. If I have to I have to deliver it in San Antonio, I will drive it down there for you. But you don't need this. She's healthy. She hasn't gotten it. And is she at high risk? Yeah, she is. Mm-hmm. She's got a lot of the, comorbidities. But I want to take a moment to talk about the patients and how they're doing. And they're all doing great. But have I had some setbacks? Have I learned something? What have I learned from treating about 75 patients with COVID? Let me tell you, this is very important. And I haven't had a venue to do this. And so thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Mm-hmm. Here's what I know to be true. These patients do really, really good. Okay. But if they eat sugar, if they eat carbs, if they eat flour, while they're being treated for this coronavirus 19, okay, they have an immediate flare-up, and it's impressive. Wow. They go into a respiratory distress. They become hypoxic to the extent that they cannot breathe. Their lungs fill with fluid. The symptoms are as though their lungs with fluid. I'm not sure that we've actually got fluid in the lung itself. And so what I do now is when the patient comes in, I spend a very large amount of time explaining to them that starting right now, they are to consume no sugar whatsoever, no flour products whatsoever. I'll give you a real quick. Patient came in, did really, really well. 2 days out, he's fabulous. He's eating protein and vegetables. Besides, he wants to have a bowl of cereal. Comes back to the office in respiratory distress. And of course, at that point, I didn't know what was going on. And I mean, we gave him breathing treatments, trying to get him oxygenated. His O2 sats were very low. I worked with this patient from 9 o'clock at night until 2 o'clock in the morning to try to get this under control. And we diagnosed it as the carbohydrate in the cereal. It was such a turnaround. This patient happened to be diabetic. And then 3 days later, we had the exact same episode with a different patient. This patient had sugar-free Jell-O. And then 2 days later, we had another episode. This patient had a couple of Coke Zeros. And he thought that because the Coke Zero had 0 calories, that was not sugar. So this virus has an affinity for sugar. Mm. And if these patients don't stay away from sugar during this 2-week period that we're containing the virus and eliminating it from the body, they have severe respiratory symptoms where oxygen goes down as low as 88%. And I didn't know that. This is something that we've just kind of seen as the patients come in, because I've had to come back to the office and I had to babysit them all night long. And most of these people are people that are diabetics, didn't know they were diabetics, or are diabetics, or not good with their diet or not taking their medication. And so for those couple of nights, we've got people walking up and down the hallways in the office trying to burn off the high sugar that was created by the carbohydrate meal. So if you believe that you have COVID and you have all the symptoms of, do not touch sugar. Do not touch flour products. Stick with protein. And I tell people chicken, meat, fish, and vegetables. That's all you can eat. And you will do good. You will do better.
You know what's interesting is that you're mentioning the keto diet, which my lovely bride and I we are on a higher protein, and we've eliminated all of those sugars and the carbohydrates. So you're saying that's a great thing. The keto diet immediately is a good thing in this situation.
I know, Pete, that the eyes are on me. I know that people are watching me. And so I cannot afford to have a patient not do well, because the moment that something happens here, they're going to blame hydroxychloroquine. And I don't want it to be my fault, my ineptness in having the patient working with me. So we're doing a lot of nutritional guidance for these people.
Yeah.
And you have to realize that in Texas, we have a lot of patients that are Hispanic, and they have diets that are not necessarily diets that we see here. And they eat a lot of flour.
Sure.
And so I am emphasizing this very much. You cannot eat sugar. So think about it. If the sugar makes the virus multiply and become aggressive, then if you don't want to catch this, stay away from sugar, stay away from carbs. Do a protein diet now, high protein, and if you get infected, you won't get infected, because if the virus doesn't have sugar in which to feed on, it cannot multiply, and your immune system will have an opportunity to destroy it.
That is so huge. Now, what you're describing here, and we'll segue in the essence of time here, because I want to speak about President Trump and how important it was when he came forward. Obviously, he's had, number one, he's on hydroxychloroquine, and it's be safe to say that he has the best medical professional surrounding him, that nobody is going to, wouldn't you say? The most powerful man in the world, I trust and rely upon them, versus Neil Cavuto, who says he's going to die on Fox News, or all these other media pundits. But President Trump, what he described and what you're describing here as to hydroxychloroquine and its affordability, and it's been tested, tried and true over 65 years, and your diet, there's no money in it for big pharma. And back again to the point, when I believe that when President Trump, taking the advice of people that were telling him, hey, hydroxychloroquine's being tested in France, and there's an opportunity here. We may be able to experiment with this to see its effectiveness on coronavirus. When he mentioned that, you caught a glimpse of that, because Big Pharma is obviously wanting to filter the information that's coming to all the doctors in the United States of America. So you were grateful that he was able to convey that and go around the mainstream media and Silicon Valley, correct? Isn't that how you received it? He's not a medical professional.
So actually, I was shocked. I was actually shocked that the president would mention a small study that a French doctor did with 29 patients. I thought, the president has his hands full with all sorts of international problems too. And just the fact that he would actually look into a potential cure for this virus for people in his country, to me, was kind of humbling, in that, wow, he's really interested in us. And I was impressed. And then I thought, well, let me look into this, because again, I hadn't had any guidance from anyone else. So I wouldn't have known how to treat these people.
Wow. And
there aren't any good antivirals on the market. So I'm not a big fan of what we use for influenza. And I was going to say Theraflu, but that's not what I'm thinking. I don't use it. So I can't remember right now, but there's no good antivirals out there. And so I was impressed when he said that. And I thought, the man is just so approachable. He wants to take care of the little guy. And he was going to take this press conference and tell us, look, this drug works. And so I wouldn't necessarily prophylax the way the president is being prophylaxed by his physician, but I understand why it's being done that way. Again, we want to keep him healthy, and there are a lot of people that don't care for him. Like I mentioned, we were talking earlier about the pharmacist and whether it was political or not. And, the patient just called me, the patient in question that didn't get her medicine filled in Corinth Pharmacy. And the patient just called the office while she heard us on the radio. And she said that the pharmacist told her, I've seen this doctor on Facebook and I'm not filling this prescription. So I guess that was it. It must have been political. She's obviously not a big Trump fan, and she decided, I'm not going to fill this, and you can't make me fill it. Let me tell you, she's going to get a lot of trouble because there was no reason for her not to fill this drug. She had a diagnosis. So not trying to beat a dead horse, down, but when you have someone that's not doing their job, you need to call them out.
Yes.
And when these patients come in and they tell me that, their doctors are not open and they won't see them and they won't prescribe anything, even when they show them a positive COVID test, I tell the patient, call them out, expose them, because do no harm means you have to treat your patient. You can't be a doctor, okay, when things are good. And when there's a pandemic, go and run and hide. I tell my patients, it's kind of like the captain of a ship, okay? If the ship starts to sink, the last one off the ship has to be the captain, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so what are doctors doing? They're hiding. They're afraid,
yes,
right? And some of them they're being locked down. There are some doctors that are being locked down. I have personal friends that have shared with me that the hospitals to where they work have told them, you will not write a prescription for hydroxychloroquine.
Wow.
And I wish I could share those emails with you. And these are doctors that are not necessarily primary care physicians, and their hospitals are telling them, you will not write a prescription for hydroxychloroquine. Well, I can't wrap my brain around this. It doesn't make any sense. This is a very safe drug. So the president taking one every day is fabulous. If I were to, let's say, prophylax this drug, I would do 1 pill a week. And I believe that doctors that are in maybe emergency rooms in hot areas like New York and New Jersey should be on this medication. Now, if you ask me, have I taken hydroxychloroquine, I will tell you that I have not taken 1 pill. And I've been treating this now since mid-March. I have not been on 1 pill. I will also tell you that my daughter, my only daughter, is in the office with me. And I was a little concerned about bringing her in. And she said, Mom, I'm coming. I'm helping. I'm finished with my finals. I'm finished with college, and I'm there. And she's been right by my side. My employee has a mother at home that just finished chemotherapy for cancer. And I told the employee, I said, are you good? And she says, I'm good. I can handle this. And so we're all here. We're not worried. We're not afraid. We haven't gotten infected. We have no symptoms. And the patients appreciate the calm. I walk in and say, hey, you're going to feel better in 3 hours. And they have hope. They're like, are you sure? And I'm like, absolutely, no doubt. And then when they come back, because they've had a sugar rush, because they've eaten cereal, then they get reprimanded. Yeah. And it's like, I told you not to do this. Well, I didn't believe you. Dr. Lozano. So it's true. No sugar, no flour products. I've told them not to eat in restaurants. I want a protein diet. Very important with vegetables. Everything needs to be fresh. Tons of water, no sodas.
That needs to be studied as well and investigated. And this is based on your experience as a medical professional. That's huge news.
Yeah. Now, I'm only talking about my experiences, and nobody can tell me that this is not what's happening in my office. And you're more than welcome to come and see it. It's my patients are real. Dr.
Lozano, let's do this in the essence of time. We have just a couple minutes here, and I want to mention one thing. Your website, of course, before we step away, it's Lozano, Lozano, medicalclinic.com. We'll provide that link in today's episode. For those of you on audio, it's Lozano, Lozano, medicalclinic.com. Here's my question to you. When you see the epidemiocracy, it's like a new system of governance, complicit is the mainstream media, attacking the world's most powerful man, President Trump, trying to do and say the right things and to get us through this crisis. And you see that whole system go after him. What about you now? And I say not to create fear in you. Are you concerned? You seem fearless, number one. Are you concerned at all these attacks upon you in any way, shape, or form?
So it takes a special kind of person to go and do a surgical residency. You got to be pretty gutsy. It's kind of a guy's world. And so I'm really not very fearful. And what you see is what you get. And the patients come in, they go, man, you just sound exactly like your video. Well, what did you think I was going to sound like? I think the reason that I've been successful doing this and that I'm not fearful is because I own my own practice. I am what you call a dinosaur. I don't belong to a hospital. They don't pay me. They don't have a nook around my neck. I don't take insurance that can, remove me from their provider list. I take Medicare, which is for people that are over the age of 65, and it's, traditional Medicare. And I do that as my way of giving back because, Medicare doesn't compensate me like just, opening up. And so, no, I'm really not fearful. Now, I will tell you that I've had a couple of doctors call me and say they're going to shut you down. They're going to take your license away. They're going to send somebody in. They're going to find you a technicality.
Yes.
But you know what? Here's the problem. I cannot sleep at night for fear that I'm going to miss a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
The phone is ringing off the hook, and I want to pick up every call, because if on the other end of the phone is someone who's got COVID symptoms, I want to try to help him find a local doctor. And the problem is that they're closed. They're closed everywhere. They're not opening. These doctors are not opening. And you can't do this over telemedicine. And I'm having tons of difficulty getting the pharmacists to fill these prescriptions. So how do you think these guys are going to fill the prescriptions? Now, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. Like, there's doctors that are like, well, come and let me telemarket, do a telemedicine interview, and I'll give you the hydroxychloroquine. I'll send it from my own place. And I don't want to be part of that. I don't know if that's legit or not. I examine every patient. I see them. It's me. It's a full exam. I take the history. I go over the medications that they have. It takes a long time. I am exhausted, emotionally, physically, spiritually exhausted. People are crying. They're in tears. They felt they were going to die. Sometimes it's overwhelming. The young ladies that are helping me in the office, my daughter, my front desk girl, their hearts are broken. These people are so far away, they can't get to me. And you just wonder, are they going to survive?
Wow.
Are they going to make it? And it's really excruciating. It's kind of like being a 911 operator and the child is not breathing, and what do you do? That's been the most difficult thing.
Well, you certainly exemplify exactly what we all look to and look up to in our the medical professionals or the doctors that we want to have. And I said this at the beginning. I want to thank you for your service to our country. We're going to continue to follow your progress. The best way to reach you on your Facebook page, you're putting out important updates. Is that the best way to stay?
No, just call the office.
Oh, well, we don't want to have our whole listenership call your office. Let's have them. We'll refer them to your website and your Facebook page. We have access to that so that we can stay abreast. I'd like to invite you to come back on if news warrants that. And of course, you've got a busy schedule as well. I appreciate everything you're doing. This has been a great segment. Keep doing what you're doing. And also, I want to make sure that we also put out a line of support if they try to shut you down. And that was the fear that I was talking about, these people wanting to shut you down. Obviously, there's some legal recourse you may have, and maybe there's some alliances that are out there with doctors that are navigating their way through this stuff, that not doctors, attorneys that may be able to help you in that regard. We'll stay in contact with you. I thank you so much for your time, Dr. Lozano. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we covered all of our important news reports before this because I knew that this was going to be a very, very important interview. I thank you for tuning in tonight. Thanks for your patience on the live stream. We'll see you. We'll be back at it first thing in the morning. We broadcast at 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. Eastern time when news breaks. We'll see you guys then. Good night, everybody.
I'm hungry. What's to eat?
Beans again.
Did somebody say hungry? Pistol Pete's Jerky at pistolpetesjerky.com. A herd of delicious flavors. Break bronco busting hunger. Lasso up your order at pistolpetesjerky.com.
Thanks, Pistol Pete.
I made it myself. pistolpetesjerky.com. Tell them Pete sent you.
Howdy, gunslingers. Pistol Pete's Jerky is the official beef jerky of the Pete Santilli Show. Go to pistolpetesjerky.com or click any of the links down below and order your delicious American beef jerky made right here in the United States of America.
If you like that video, the mainstream media and the deep state hates our videos. Do me a favor, subscribe to us right here. It helps us out a lot. To get breaking news reports, click this link right here. Our special reports, deep state hates our special reports, click that link right there. And to see our show Monday through Friday at 9 a.m., 6 p.m. live, click that link right there. Bam!